Hello, we are in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13. He who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame. Remember this, husbands. Listen to your wife before you give her your solution. But this applies to a lot more than just that. So you really don't know what's happening until you let someone explain to you from their point of view what's happening and explain to you from their point of view what needs to be done. If you don't listen, if you just stride in, if fools go in where angels fear to tread, this is folly. You're going to get disasters that others could have warned you about. You're going to do things that others could have suggested you shouldn't do, and not do things that others suggest you should do. So folly, it leads to death, and shame, it leads to you looking like an idiot, a person who's not worthy to get any honor. I just said opposite, so that wasn't helpful. A person who's not worthy to be respected and given tasks that are worth doing. Okay, so shame. 14. A man's spirit sustains him in sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? Okay, if you have an understanding that you have a wonderful, worthy God who has given you life, that you are a child of his whom he values, if that poor in spirit has been made worthy by the blood of Christ, by his sacrifice, and you enter into a situation where trials and tests become overwhelming, you come back to that. You come back to your baptism, you come back to the love of Christ, and it allows you to persist. And in persistence, you gain hope. And in hope, there is the certainty of what Christ promises. So you get through the hard times. But if you've depended on yourself and your spirit is weak, and then these events happen, unfortunately, you don't persist. We see an uptick in all sorts of bad things happening, including and up to suicide. Because how can you bear it on your own when the world utterly turns against you, when disaster and plague happen, when you see no hope for the future? With Christ, there is always hope for the future. In fact, the hope is certainty. But on your own, if you try to depend on your own spirit, despair. 15. The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge. The ears of the wise seek it out. Discerning again and wise, it's saying the same thing two times here, right? If you're discerning, you're a person who determines this is something that is pleasing to God, this is something that's not pleasing to God. If you're wise, then you have looked at the writings of God and his revelation, and you've seen what God says is good and what God says is evil. And so you have a desire in your heart to have these things, because because you're discerning, because you're wise, you now know that the things God gives are good, and that they will lead to a better life, and they will lead to an eternal life. So let's move on. 16. A gift opens the way for the giver and ushers him into the presence of the great. We think of gifts as being given because you love someone, and that's the right way to do it. And we think of it as a bribe when you give someone something so that they will give you something back. But it's not always the case. It is proper in many cultures and in many situations to give a gift. And the fact that you give a gift is one of the ways that a person who has a very busy schedule might pick between who comes in. He can't have everyone come in. There has to be a way to discern. And the thoughtfulness of a gift can help with that discernment. Now, from a romantic perspective, a gift can take the eyes of a young lady and focus it on the giver, where she had been looking around and seeing who was out there. Oh, well, this is very, very wonderful. Let's see who that person is. So a gift, in the positive sense, can allow the opportunity for further exchange, for further communication. A bribe, in the negative sense, would be when you're trying to do so in an illicit manner or to the harm of someone else. Maybe not the harm of the person receiving the bribe, but the harm of others. Then it would be a bribe. But here, I think we should look at this in a positive sense. And gifts can be useful when it comes to, getting to know people. So, moving to the next. 17. The first to present his case seems right till another comes forward and questions him. Well, this is a kind of fun one from Solomon and speaks a definite truth. So when someone presents you with an idea and you hear it, you think, oh, they're correct. But often their idea has a bias to it, and they're giving you limited perspectives. And it's difficult to see that bias or that limited perspective until someone else comes forward with a different perspective. Really, this is one we should have been listening to when we talked about all these shootings which have caused riots, of police shooting different people. We're often getting the first view from the news, and it's not a deeper view. And the reality is, first of all, we're not the ones who are supposed to be judging this. So maybe we should be less interested in what others are doing and more interested in what we're doing and things which affect our life and those around us. But secondly, it is wise to take a step back and wait, because you've only heard one view. A second view is going to come. There's going to be an investigation and more information will come out. And sometimes that information will support the first view, but very often, particularly in these cases, because those who were looking at these situations had a definite bias, those who were reporting on it. The second view did not support the first view. And it looks like the first view was often in the wrong. So here Solomon is saying that. And Solomon, as a judge, this happens to him all the time. One person gives their side, the other person gives the other side. Now suddenly he has conflicting situations. But it's good. It's good to have a prosecutor and a defense attorney because the judge needs all that information so they can make a good decision without prejudice and without bias. We'll close there.